Joe Biden's kids in cages is moving way beyond crisis mode. California school districts are coming up with some interesting ways to spend COVID relief funds. Plus, Nancy Pelosi seeks to overturn a state-certified election. All that and more. I'm Bobby Eberle. This is a 13-minute news hour.
And God bless the United States of America.
All right, friends, welcome to the show. Happy Monday. I hope you had a great weekend. If you're new to the show, thank you so much for tuning in. We're going to start with Joe Biden and the kids in cages, because remember back in the dark days of former President Trump, where we had kids in cages. It was inhumane. It was barbaric. Doesn't matter that it was actually started with Barack Obama. Media didn't care about that. All they cared about was painting a narrative, a damaging narrative that they could go after President Trump with and scoring political points. That's all they cared about. Well, we know what happened next because of Joe Biden and his open borders policy. I'm talking about stopping border wall construction, catch and release, no more waiting in Mexico, no more deportations. It's like a welcome mat. It's like, come on in, we're not going to do anything. So there's a surge at the border, a full-blown crisis. And what's happening? Those kids in cages facilities, they have to reopen, except the media is calling it migrant facilities for children. Remember Jen Psaki trying to defend these practices, defend the migrant facilities for children?
This is not kids being kept in cages. This is kids. This is a facility that was opened that's going to follow the same standards as other HHS facilities. It is not a replication, certainly not. That is never our intention of replicating the immigration policies of the past administration, but we are in a circumstance where we are not going to expel unaccompanied minors at the border. That would be inhumane. That is not what we are going to do here as an administration. We need to find places that are safe under COVID protocols for kids to be.
All right, so she's saying it's the same facility, but it's not kids in cages because we're doing it the right way. The only reason we open this up is because we have to keep kids spread apart. Kids are coming in. We have to keep them socially distanced to obey COVID protocols. Well, guess what? We all know what happened. They soon, because of this surge at the border, they just totally disregarded that, maxed it out, full capacity, just like President Trump. That's what Joe Biden was doing. Well, guess what? That's old news. That was last week. Now the surge has gotten to the point where these places are more than maxed out, doubling, tripling, even more their legal capacity. And here's the story. Children at one facility in South Texas are going hungry, with many reporting they have only been able to shower once in 7 days, as the center is at 729% of its legal capacity, reported CBS. Under pandemic safety rules to allow for social distancing, the CBP holding facility in Donna is permitted to hold a maximum of 250 migrants. On March 2nd, there were more than 1,800 people held in the facility, CBS reported. So, supposed to hold 250, currently holding 1,800. Remember how President Trump was attacked for these facilities? They're going over 700% capacity, 7 times the legal limit. That's what's happening. There's a fallout. And here's more. Naya Desai, a lawyer representing migrant youth in government custody, told the outlet children are being forced to sleep on the floor due to a lack of beds, while some are being held as long as 7 days, more than double the legal 72-hour limit. Some of the boys said the conditions were so overcrowded that they had to take turns sleeping on the floor, Desai said after interviewing almost a dozen unaccompanied migrant children at the center. They all said they wanted to shower more and were told they couldn't. This is unbelievable, folks. Look at what is going on and look at how it's being portrayed. But some members of the media are even getting frustrated. Here is a recent press conference. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki, who can never give an answer to anything, she was asked point blank, is there a crisis at the border?
At this point, is this a crisis at the border?
Look, I don't think we need to sit here and put new labels on what we have already conveyed is challenging. What we have conveyed is a top priority for the president, what our policy teams are working on every single day. There was a trip to the border this weekend. They are working over the course of every day since then on putting in place policies that can help address what we're seeing and help ensure that we are keeping these kids safe.
It's challenging. and a top priority. That's the response. That's Jen Psaki's response. It's not a border crisis. Don't say that. It's a challenge. But Joe Biden's on it. It's his top priority. Tell that to the kids there, the ones who can't sleep, the ones that don't have enough food, the ones that can't take a shower. But don't worry about it. Joe Biden's on it. It's his top priority. Yeah, I bet that goes over well with those people there that can't even sleep or take a shower. All right, next, we're going to talk about what's going on in California. But first, if you're new to the show or haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. And when you do, please hit that bell so you'll be notified. We're making our push for 150,000 subscribers, and we can do it with your help. All right, we're going to talk about a story, and you probably won't believe it. It involves COVID relief funds, but then again, it involves California and teachers' unions, so you just might believe it. All right, remember COVID relief funds? They're supposed to go to help getting schools up and running again, helping the students. Well, some school districts aren't exactly putting the funds in that direction. And here's the story. Multiple California school districts are using state and federal COVID relief money to hand out bonuses for teachers and staff, with one district even suggesting the money be used for a trip to Hawaii. The internal memos have been shared online by Reopen California Schools, a Facebook group started early on in the pandemic by Jonathan Zackerson. Clovis Unified School District, located in Fresno County, reportedly discussed using federal and state relief funds to give a one-time payment to employees, given the extraordinary effort required of every employee over the course of the pandemic. So how do you like that? I mean, in many of these states, particularly blue states, the teachers' unions are not following the science. The science says to reopen. Instead, they want to dole out bonuses. That makes a lot of sense. Here's more. Zackerson told Fox News that a person involved in the negotiations told him that the district has discussed employee bonuses as high as $6,000 per employee rather than on students. Dublin Unified School District, located in the Bay Area, has proposed paying its teachers a one-time $2,500 bonus with state and federal aid to be used for, among other things, an airline trip to Hawaii when the pandemic is over, according to an internal memo obtained by Reopen California Schools. Oh my gosh. First of all, every single study says that schools should be reopened. You go back to the summer, even in the summer, before there was a vaccine or anything, the studies said kids need to be back in school. That's why around the world, kids were back in school in September. Many places around this country, private schools, public schools are reopened. But you have these areas that want to continue the lockdowns and not follow the science. And yet every speech, Joe Biden or Kamala Harris or others saying, we're following the science, when they're flat out not doing it. It's absolutely outrageous. But hey, let's give each other bonuses. That makes a lot of sense. All right, now let's talk about Nancy Pelosi and the election in Iowa. It's outrageous, folks, because one of the things we learned in the 2020 election is that if you're a Republican, you can't contest anything. You can't challenge anything. You can't say anything was wrong, or else you'll be accused of treason. You just have to fall in line. If the Democrat is winning, you can't contest it. But what Nancy Pelosi is showing is that if the Democrat is on the losing end, that's a different story. In Iowa's 2nd congressional district, the razor-thin margin, it was just so close in this election. On first count, Marionette Miller Meeks, the Republican, won by 47 votes. 47 votes out of nearly 400,000. Well, of course, they did a recount. The recount made it closer. She ended up winning by 6 votes. There were legal challenges from the Democrats. Eventually, the state certified the election for Miller Meeks by 6 votes. Should be all done, right? State certified election. Those were the results. No, not if it's a Democrat losing, and not if Nancy Pelosi has anything to say about it. She wants to challenge those results in the House of Representatives, exactly what they say Republicans shouldn't do. Here's Jim Jordan talking about Nancy Pelosi. Speaker Pelosi says she's open to unseating Republican Congresswoman Miller Meeks. Translation, you're only allowed to object to an election if you're a Democrat. So Nancy Pelosi was asked about this just yesterday on ABC News. George Stephanopoulos asked her, are you trying to overturn an election? Why are you trying to overturn an election that's been state certified? Here's Pelosi.
Well, it was 6 votes. There were 6 votes, and our candidate, Rita Hart, the Democratic candidate, asked for this process to begin. What the committee did, the House Administration Committee, was very narrow to take the process to the next step and see where it goes from there.
See where it goes from here? The election is done. The results were state certified. That should be it, right? But Nancy Pelosi wants House committees to look at this. What about the investigation into the 2020 presidential election? Where are the House committees on that? It's the most important office in the country, perhaps the entire world. Shouldn't there be investigations on that? Here's more from Pelosi.
This is not unique. This has happened maybe even when you were in the Capitol before, when races have been close, one side or the other saying, let's take it to the House. Because even Justice Scalia agreed that the House has the authority to seat members, and therefore we can count the votes.
So the House may have the authority, but isn't it interesting that in the most important office in the country, the President of the United States, she's not pushing for investigations. She's not pushing to make sure that elections are safe and secure in the future. In fact, the Democrats are doing the exact opposite. But in this particular race, she's all for an investigation because a Democrat lost. And she knows the House hangs in the balance. It's so close. Every Democrat helps her. She's going to push it. Forget about election integrity. Forget it. It's okay to challenge the results. If Pelosi's doing it, it's okay. That's what she's saying. All right. So next, let's talk about Coca-Cola and what's going on with their new wokeness. And as any of you know who watch the show, I am a huge fan of the teachings and the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. The way I grew up, the great American melting pot, a colorblind society, judge people on merit, not on race. That was his teaching. And here's what I believe. I believe that that was actually working. Growing up, we saw race relations getting better and better and better. And I think the left realized that, oh my gosh, these teachings are actually bringing people together. And that is the last thing they want. Because right now, his legacy, his teachings are under attack. You have safe spaces. You've got diversity. You've got people looking at their white privilege. Everything to talk about and attack the teachings of Martin Luther King Jr. He didn't want anything to be about race. Now everything is about race. That is the only thing that matters. Coca-Cola is showing their new wokeness by new policies that they say they're only going to deal with law firms that are sufficiently diverse. And here's the story. Coca-Cola's legal department penned a letter to its U.S. outside counsel on January 28th stating law firms that want to work with Coca-Cola must commit that at least 30% of each of billed associate and partner time will be from diverse attorneys. And as such amounts, at least half will be from black attorneys. But the ultimate aspiration will be that at least 50% with at least half that amount from black attorneys. For new matters, a law firm's failure to comply with these diversity guidelines after 2 quarterly reviews will result in a non-refundable 30% reduction in fees payable going forward. Continued failure to adhere to the requirements could lead to a termination of the relationship between the firms and the soda company. Wow. Embrace diversity or else. And here's the problem, folks. Their goal is this 50% billing, half of that coming from black attorneys. But the thing is, blacks only make up 13% of the U.S. population. They only make up 5% of all U.S. attorneys. And we've got Title VII, as the story points out, of the Civil Rights Act that says you can't hire based on race. And we've got these quotas and hiring practices and all of this stuff. But that's what it says in the Civil Rights Act. And yet, to meet these goals, that's what companies would have to do. They would have to hire based on race. It's absolutely outrageous. But check out these more comments from the Coke executives. The time has come for us to stop championing good intentions and motivations and instead reward action and results. Quite simply, this is now an expectation, Coca-Cola Senior Vice President and General Counsel Bradley Gayton said in a statement attached to the letter. My hope is that our law firm partners view this as an opportunity to affect real systemic change and that others, both within and outside of the legal profession, take inspiration and join with similar commitments of their own, the statement continued. So, do you think these law firms will view this as an opportunity to affect real systemic change? Or they take it as coercion? I mean, this is strong arm tactics, folks. all for things that don't make sense when you look at it logically. You should have the best attorneys in the law firm. That's how you practice law. That's how you deliver the best service or the best product. You get the best people involved, regardless of race. But Coke gets woke, and that's their latest policy. Folks, that's our show for today. I hope you enjoyed it. Please subscribe, and when you do, please hit that bell so you'll be notified, and we'll see you next time. I'm Bobby Eberle. This is a 13-minute news hour. Okay, friends, thanks so much for watching. And before you go, please hit that subscribe button, hit that bell so you'll be notified. And here's a special video just for you so you can watch even more of the 13-minute news hour. And don't forget to check out GOPUSA.com for the best in conservative news and commentary. We'll see you next time.